Hey there, this is part of the tips and tricks video series. So these videos are supposed to be intended to be short introductions to several different topics and things that maybe students in the Intro to Mechanical Engineering or maybe other courses would likely not have much exposure to, and maybe they find that these are helpful in doing the homework in this class and maybe other classes. So today's topic is Smath, which is the same as MathCAD. MathCAD does have a price associated with it, and Smath is a free download for everyone. Most of the things are exactly the same. There are a few nuances between the two, and the way that maybe the hotkeys or maybe the syntax is just slightly different. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we will step through what Smath looks like. So we'll do kind of an introduction here. Move this over here. Make that a little larger. Okay, so this is what Smath looks like. You can see the logo here, and you've got the typical navigation of new, open, save, print, and some text editing and some calculation, just some pretty standard stuff. And then on the right-hand side, you can see these different quick menus. And so you can put in different variables and maybe some Greek letters and some numbers and maybe some formatting stuff pretty easily. Okay, so the first thing that you probably need to know is setting a variable is probably step one, where you might want to set a variable, say A. And so when you're entering it in here, you should push Shift : and it will give you this : equal sign. So now you're saying A is equal to, and you can put any value you want in here. So let's say 25 meters. And you notice when I type M for meter, it pulls up this box of variables that are pre-programmed in. And so I can add this by pressing the tab to insert that. So now it changed colors. Now it knows that that is a meter. So that's a unit for it to keep track of. So let's say meters per second. And again, hit tab to enter that in. So now A, anytime I use A anywhere, and I'm just going to hit equals now. Anytime I use A, it's going to have a value of 25 meters per second. So now I can change those units to maybe miles. And I can hit tab per hour and hit tab, and it will do the calculation and the unit conversion for me. So now anytime I put in there A, I can have it display in either metric or English units. And you can right click on here on the value, and there's a bunch of different options here for setting decimal places or having it display in different ways. All right, so that's how you set a variable. So if you say A is equal to that. Now, what if you wanted to use A in equations? So we say Y is equal to A times 45 plus 253 minus 2 times A. So I kind of went fast there, but every time I would type that in, I was using just the asterisk. And so on my keyboard that I'm using here, it's a 10 keypad, as you can see. So I have the asterisk just right here in the corner. And so I just hit that key like you would on your calculator. So Y is equal to A times 45 plus 253 minus 2 times A. And you can put parentheses in here, just like you would in, say, Excel or any other program. And then within those parentheses, you can add different operations. So now it's calculated that out, and you have a couple of ways of displaying the answer. You can hit equals right at the end of this exact equation. And look at that, it says units do not match. And so we've got a unit problem because we're taking A here, we're multiplying it and subtracting things. And so the units in A here and the units A here do not match one another. And so it will help protect you from making some minor mistakes here or there. And so this subtraction off of here is the issue. We're taking meters per second and we're subtracting off something with no units, and again, something else with no units. And so we can we can start over and say A times 45 plus 2 times A. Now we're taking something with meters per second and we're adding meters per second to it. So that should work out to 1175 meters per second. Mm-hmm. The other way you can display that is type in Y again. And so this is very helpful when you have a whole bunch of stuff going on in a sheet. Anywhere in that sheet below where you have defined that variable Y is equal to this, anywhere below that, or even right up next to it, you can display what that answer is at that point in the calculation. But if you put it up above, you can see it is not defined yet. So it has to be equal to or lower in the page. So again, we can change the units here, miles per second, in case you needed to find out what those units are. So you can see this 1175 meters per second is equal to 0.7301 miles per second. So this is where Smath or MathCAD really can be helpful, is you can have all of these different equations and the units will be taken care of for you. Whereas in Excel, you would have to make sure that those unit conversions are correctly being calculated. So I have another sheet here. So let's see if I can just change what we're looking at under pages here. So this is a scratch pad that I did a while back when I was helping a student try to figure out what was wrong with their sale. So you can see this is directly related to our project. We've got our coefficient of drag is 4/3 and our velocity is 10 miles per hour for wind. And then I've got this sale area of just kind of a guess. I've got the density of air. So you can recognize some of these equations. And so I've just written those equations out. And typically what I would suggest is if you're writing any code at all, and this is not necessarily code, but you are writing down equations in a spreadsheet or a sheet to be calculated, you should document what they are. So this would be force of drag on sail. And so that way, every time you go back to this sheet, it's pretty easy for you to see exactly what's being calculated there. So you can see down below, I've got it in newtons and I've got it in pound force. And that way, if I'm working with a student on this, I could quickly compare my calculations to theirs in whatever units they have. So you can see we've got the height of the hull down here, the height of the mast, height of the keel, and the height of the ballast, or the weight of the mass of the ballast, sorry. And so all these you can just kind of move around and get them organized. And there's some organizing things right here. You can align them horizontally, align them vertically. So if you want all these to line up really nice, you can hit that. Same thing here, and you can get those to line up. And so you can see the same equations we've got down here. And this is where doing problems in either Excel or in MathCAD or in Python or MATLAB, this is where it really comes in handy, is you can change these variables around. So let's say the height of the hull of our boat, let's go a little bit taller. Instead of 0.07, let's go 0.125 meters. And so now we're looking at 4.9 inches tall. And so the output, which is our area sail, the area of our sail changed a little bit. So we got 1.287 versus 1.497. And so you can play around with these different variables and say, all right, what happens if I extend the length of my keel from 0.27 to 0.35? I can handle a much larger surface area of my sail, or I could also change the ballast. And so you can play around with these variables and say, how can I get the very biggest area of our sail as possible without it tipping over? So this again is defined as 30 degrees for our tipping angle, which we defined right here, 30 degrees. And so you can see if you have this plus your buoyancy analysis, if you put all this stuff in one sheet, then you could see if I did increase my mass of my ballast and I increased it quite a bit, I'd look at my buoyancy analysis and say, can my boat actually float still with this much ballast? Because if it can, then I've got a much bigger sail. So those are some of the tips there that I wanted to pass along. Again, not comprehensive, but a good starting point. And I'm sure you can find a lot more information online. So I think that'll do it for this quick tip video. Hopefully you find it helpful, and take care.